Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Living in Fullness podcast. Today, on our episode, we've got a special guest, special to my heart as well, Phetola Makheta.
Aww.
She is a mom, an entrepreneur. She's a wife. I should have probably started with wife. She's a wife, a mom, an entrepreneur, and she is doing so well on the social media space. And I think for me, what's very special about her is how she's so humble, she is confident as well, and she's got this mentorship thing in her. Is this how you've always been?
Wow, are you talking about me?
Of course.
Wow, Naki, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor and a pleasure and a privilege to be here.
You are in for a treat. Welcome to the Living in Fullness podcast, where you will get relatable, authentic, entertaining, and thought-provoking content. I am your host, Naki Muteto. Here, we believe everyone has a story and every story has a purpose. It's when you own your story, your voice, and your journey that it's able to impact those around you. Our journeys and life experiences are not a coincidence. Join us on our journey to living their purpose on purpose by staying glued to learn more from real life experiences.
Have I always been that way in terms of mentorship? Wow. I don't really look at myself as a mentor. I think we are all here to make a difference, and that's how I live my life, really. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so I've got some icebreaker questions.
Oh, I love icebreakers.
Okay, so the first one, how do you describe your fashion sense and what are you most comfortable in? Because you've got such amazing fashion sense.
Really?
Yeah.
Sure. And talking about that, I was so nervous coming to the show, and I changed like 5 times because I was like, I don't know what to wear. Naki's always looking amazing. She's like this fashion slayer.
Oh, wow.
So my fashion sense is, I would like to say classic. You know, I'm not really, I wouldn't say that I'm a trend follower, but I do like trends, and I will pair them with something that's very classic.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
The next one, what does your morning routine look like?
Oh, on a good week, my morning routine is waking up at 5. I'm trying to do 4. Apparently, the most successful people wake up at 4.
No ways. Then
Guys, apparently this is a real thing. So prayer, you know, I always start my day off with prayer before the kids wake up. And once the kids go, we get the kids ready together with my husband. And then when the kids go to school, I try to spend more time with myself, a little bit more time, like an hour or 2 with myself. And then I'll shower and get into the day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you a night or a morning person?
I'm a morning person.
Oh, good.
Morning. Please, at night, I'm useless.
You're done.
I can't do anything after 9 o'clock. Don't even waste your time
give
with
me
me.
work.
No. Yeah.
That's good. What has been the most challenging questions your little girls have asked you?
Ooh. So Lehakwe, our 10-year-old, has started asking about how kids are made, about sex, you know, and we tried to cut corners to be like, yeah, you know, kids are made in this way, but we tried to be honest, you know. And then the one time she came to us and she said, you know, I've actually read about what I went to the dictionary and I read about what sex is. Guys, she's 10.
Goodness.
Did I want to die, you know?
You would have rather explained yourself.
And you know what? And I felt like, I don't know, it felt like it had to happen that way because that was also an icebreaker. Because we also want to be age appropriate. We don't want to be sharing things with her that she's not ready to know about, to receive, you know. So when they start asking questions, you know that they are ready to hear certain things. Because the questions are also pointed, they're also direct. Yeah. So that is the most difficult for me. Yeah. The birds and the bees.
The last icebreaker question.
Yeah.
Describe your husband in 1 sentence.
Oh. Principled. So that's in 1 word, ne? Yeah. So I think not even a sentence, but he's like in one word, he's very principled. He lives by principle. If he's made a decision about something, he will follow through. So he's definitely a man of his word.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, very principled guy. Oh. And I love him. I love you.
Oh my God. You know, if you see this, guys, well, Habi is here, but
he mustn't distract me. Yeah, he will stay in his little corner.
Yeah. So, who is Phetola? Who are you? Who influences the person you are today?
Who am I? Why are these questions so difficult?
Are they? You're answering them so well.
I'm just me. I don't know. Who am I? I mean, I feel like in the introduction you summed it up so beautifully. You know, I'm a wife, a mom. I'm an entrepreneur, but I think more than anything, I'm a lover of Christ. You know, I love Jesus. I love anything God inspired, kingdom inspired, and that's just who I am. I love people. So I think maybe that's why when you ask who's it's such a loaded question also, like who are you really? But in its simplest form, that's who I am. I'm a very simple person. I'm not, my husband would disagree, you know, because he doesn't think I'm very simple. He thinks I'm a bit complex.
I think every husband would.
But yeah, that's who I am. Yeah.
Oh, listen, who inspires you?
I draw inspiration from different people. I don't really have like one person that I draw inspiration from, but the people that inspire me the most are people that are self-aware, you know, that know who they really are, and they are just authentically themselves. You know, so for me, you don't have to be, what can I say, the most trailblazer in the world, because sometimes trailblazers don't really know themselves, right? So for me, I can't even say that it's this person or that person, but I really just draw inspiration from a lot of people. Yeah.
I love that. And there's a lot about you that actually people can learn. Phetola is the most loving person. At least to me, I've noticed
you are
she's
so kind.
loving.
Are you just saying because I'm on my show? I'm on
your
show.
No, I've told you this.
Guys, Naki's just saying this because I'm on her show.
I have told you this many times. You know, it's rare you meet people that are doing so well in their life. And they are so humble, loving, and also meeting your husband as well. Like you can see that you feed from each other.
You are so kind.
How do you remain humble and loving?
Sure. I think before we started the show, when, you know, I was getting my makeup done, we had like a little conversation about this. You know, I think basically, if you understand that your gifts and your talents are not about you, there's no way you can be proud, you know. And I think I also know where God found me. When God found me, I was a mess, right? And you can't be pompous, you know, when you know that the reason you are here and the reason you're doing what you're doing is not because you are this amazing person. You know, yes, you're amazing because God thinks you're amazing and God made you amazing, but you are doing what you're doing because God has gifted you and God has opened doors for you. So I think once you make it about yourself and you think that, oh, because there's this thing where people are like, I'm self-made. I mean, you know,
that's true.
I don't get it, because for me, I'm just like, there's absolutely nothing I can do without God. I can't do anything. You know, and that really humbles me. It grounds me when you know your shortcomings, when you know your flaws, but God still puts you on platforms where people can celebrate you. I mean, that is mind-blowing for me.
I love that. I love that. So, you know, for a very long time, society made women feel as though they're just meant to be mothers, to be wives, to stay at home, to take care of their families. And, you know, you're a mom, you're a wife, you're an entrepreneur. You are doing a lot of things at the same time.
It sounds so overwhelming.
It does sound overwhelming.
Like, how do I do it?
Hence, I need to know, how do you do it? How do you prioritize? How do you also set boundaries with people around you?
God, I don't know how I do it. I think, to be honest, I get easily overwhelmed, you know, because sometimes you might look like you're together.
Yeah.
You know, when people see you, they're like, oh, she's got it all together. Half the time I don't have it all together, but I've got an amazing support system. You know, my husband is incredible. I think he really just holds me together. You know, I've got family that is absolutely invested in our well-being, that is invested in just us doing well. So they are there to help us, you know, when we need the support. So I don't think I always have it together. You know, I don't always know how to prioritize, but I think at the risk of sounding maybe super spiritual, I feel like God also gives you the wisdom to prioritize, you know, where you know that this is not now, maybe later. A good example is that this year, when we start the year, we have all these plans.
Resolutions.
Guys, it's March and I haven't smashed any goals. Like what? What am I doing with my life, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like there's certain things where God will tell you explicitly to say, park this, not this year, not this quarter, move it to next year, move it to, you know, the next quarter and so forth and so on. But I feel like sometimes, because we live in a world where people are doing.
Yeah.
Guys, people are breaking barriers.
moves.
People are making strides. And you can easily get to a point where you feel like, what am I doing with my life? And then you just try to push things that aren't even in season.
Yeah,
so I've learned to trust the timing of my life. You know, sometimes it's really difficult. But God has been so gracious to show me what I need to do in that season. And in terms of creating boundaries, sure, I feel like I'm very honest, right? I'm a very honest person, but not crassly honest, like lovingly honest. I don't do what I don't want to do.
Okay.
My friends know this. My husband knows this. If I don't want to do something, I'm not going to do it, and that's just how I set boundaries. Yeah. So I won't do something for the sake of pleasing other people.
That's good.
Yeah. So I find that sometimes people feel a bit stretched because they can't say no, or you know, no is not a bad word. Sometimes you can feel like you're not equipped to do a certain something, and you can politely say no. So I don't stretch myself unnecessarily. Yeah.
That's actually what I was going to ask you, because you know you're evolving, and as you grow, you evolve. You know, a lot of things about you change, your priorities shift, your priorities change. So how do you, like, have you ever been in conflict with family or friends because you know, now I don't have time to do what I used to do last year? You know, I'm pushing this, and so I cannot meet you, I cannot see you as often. Have you ever been in conflict, or are you always you know, setting boundaries from onset?
I think, you know what, conflict is a part of life. And when things shift, when things change, when things don't look like what they used to look like a few weeks ago, there's bound to be conflict, you know. But I think in the communication as well, you know, I've been able to communicate to my family to say, you know what, this is the season of my life where I need to be doing 1, 2, and 3. And I might not be able to be as present as I used to be. And oddly enough, you know, surprisingly enough, they've been very gracious as well. You know, but yeah, I think it happens when things aren't the way they used to be. Growth, when growth happens, it's uncomfortable, and it's not just uncomfortable for you, but also for the people around you. Yeah.
How do you rest?
How do I rest?
Yeah.
Guys, the way I love rest. Yo, I wish I could rest my whole life. So you know, this funny thing, I always say that the life that I'm living now is not the life that I would have chosen for myself. Because I love to rest.
Yeah.
Right? And, but God constantly pursues me. He pursues me, and He gets me to do things, and I'm like, no, God, just like, I just want to not be doing a lot of things, right? And I feel like if God hadn't pursued me, I would be living a very mediocre life, full of rest. because I love to rest. But I don't know, like, and this morning I was even saying to Navata, I was like, babe, you know what I'm craving? I'm craving just one day, just take the kids and I just want to be by myself, because I don't even think I know what it feels like to rest, because even when I'm not doing something physically, my mind is constantly thinking, right? Because the rest is not just about not doing something physically, it's about how do you rest your mind to not be thinking about 110,000 things. So I need to learn that. It's something that I'm practicing. But I think I get that time in my quiet time. That's time of rest for me as well. When I'm spending time with God and the Word, it rests my mind somehow. Yeah. So I'm still learning.
That's good. I need to learn to rest. I'm always busy. I'm always working.
It's a lot.
And when I rest, it's like, okay, what can I do next?
Exactly. Because now you've rested, but now you've been thinking about the next best thing to do. So,
I hear you. So, one thing that's very evident when I met you, when I met you and your husband, when I watch your videos, is how you both know how to communicate. I don't know if you all have watched the Marks, but the way they communicate, and I see it's not just for YouTube or Instagram, but you can tell it's just how you communicate. My love, yes, darling, what did you say? It's amazing. Like, I love it. How do you communicate? And you can see that even when you're not agreeing on a particular point, you're able to, what can I say? You affirm that point, but then you can speak your own view. How do you have such good communication skills?
Such a great compliment, because we were a mess when we met. Oh my goodness, we were a mess. Maybe, some more than others. I feel like I pride myself in being this straight talker who knows how to communicate, but I was a terrible communicator. I was horrible, and I found that in that communication it would build a barrier. My husband would either just switch off or be rebellious, in a sense that he would just do the opposite
of what you've said.
Of what I've said. But I feel like it's because I was just a horrible communicator. I was like a tell it like it is kind of girl, but we've been married now for 13 years.
Wow.
No, I'm lying. We've been together for 13. How long have we been together for? What's happening? No. So we got married in 2010. So we got married in 2010. We've been together for 15 years.
Oh, great.
Married for 13 this year. Oh my goodness, it's a lifetime.
Yeah.
And I've learned from my husband that the approach is everything. So how I approach him right now is as equally important as the point that you're trying to drive across. Because sometimes we're so focused on, I want him to hear me. And I've just learned that, man, your approach is everything. The way I approach things has really just helped us to have a healthy relationship. And I think we also communicate the way we do because we really like each other. Yes, we love each other deeply, but we really like each other. We're friends, and when you see
now
a
you
friend,
must think of being angry the whole day.
And we are hopeless at being angry the whole day. Like, I can't even do overnight because after a while we're just like, okay, we haven't been speaking for like so many hours. I really miss you. I'm bored. And that is because we're really best friends and we're so used to sharing everything with each other. So if something happens in the space where we are upset with each other now, who do you share with? So it's like, okay, can we just stop being angry with each other? And so it took years of learning each other, of practice, because in the beginning it was just a mess. I'm not gonna lie. Mess.
And I think as women we always say, at least we communicate. Men don't communicate, but we're like, are you doing it right? Because the tone also matters. It's something my husband always says as well, that tone matters. If you're just going to come and say however you feel in me, I'm done.
And I think when we met, I thought I was just perfect, and everything that was going wrong in our marriage, it was him. Right. I'm just like, yo, we're nice. You
need to change.
Like, what is, I didn't sign up for this. I was very, maybe I was very spicy, you know, and I think now I've evolved. I'm still, you know, assertive, but I'm a lot more well-rounded. Yeah, I think in the beginning everything was just black and white. I still have that black and white thing going, but I'm a lot more open-minded, and that's what I've learned from my husband, to say, listen, dude, you don't have to go from 0 to 100
in the space of a minute.
Because everything was a crisis for me. Everything was just like, oh my goodness, this marriage is just not what it's not working. It's not what I signed up for. He doesn't listen to me. And I've just learned that, dude, don't sweat the small stuff, you know? And I think, that's what has made us communicate the way we do now.
And it's amazing.
Thank you.
So whilst we're still on that, how do you, because there's a video I watched where you said you became happier when you stopped expecting Lerato to make you happy, right?
That was so difficult.
And I totally, you know, agreed with you, because when I got married, I moved back to SA because I was here for school, right? And most of my friends had moved out of Johannesburg, so it was just me and my husband. And I started expecting him to be everything, you know, which sort of put so much a burden on him, to the extent that I was expecting some things I need from God from him, you know, because I'm like, no, you have to be everything. You've got friends, yes, but I don't have friends here. So it was a lot. So how did you actually get to a point where you say to yourself, this is the truth, I need, you know, to find happiness on my own before I can expect it from him?
You know what, Naki, I'm not gonna lie, that was very difficult for me. And I think also it's also based on what we learn growing up, you know, especially what you watch in movies and in fairy tales. There's always that damsel in distress, there's that knight in shining armor. So it also always gives the idea that women sort of need saving. And even though you're not going to marriage thinking that you've internalized these things over a period of years, right? A period of time. And I feel like also even the vows that we made, you know, I always say, like, my husband made the most amazing vows and he sang them. Actually, he didn't say them, he sang them. And, you know, in the vows, you know, when we say, I don't know, you know, people say, I'll be your everything.
And you're looking at him like,
you know, and you're like, oh my goodness. And you believe these things that, okay, this person is just going to make everything beautiful, make everything perfect. And I think that, you know, we fall into a trap because if we always speak about how happiness is a choice, right? And if you do not choose that on your own, then you're going to have issues. I mean, if my husband did as much as sneezed in like the wrong way, I'd just be like,
what are you doing?
Like, and then my mood would be ruined. And I'm like, why, you know? But like, jokes aside, like, I just feel like also I had put a lot of expectations on him, you know, to be this person that is going to make me happy in every single way, you know, do the provision, love me this way, love me the right way, do this and do that. And I also learned something also, that when it comes to this thing about us expecting other people to be our be all and end all, I was at a wedding, and this sister of the bride said, I pray that you would be the partner that you want your husband to be.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? And like, that sat with me for a very, like till today. I think about that how, you know, because we're so demanding of our partners, but how much are we giving of ourselves,
well. Sure,
right?
That's a good
that
one.
I want this, I want that, make me happy, do this for me, do that for me. But are you doing those things for your partner? And I feel like there's a lot of pressure on men. Shame, I feel like that we expect so much from them.
That's true.
And I think when my husband said it, I was a bit defensive when he was like, it's not my responsibility to make you happy.
And you're like,
I was like,
who should?
Right. I was like, you married me.
Yeah.
You took me out of my parents' house. I was sitting comfortably in my father's house and you promised me the world.
Yeah.
And I was defensive. And then I went away and I thought about it and I was still annoyed about it. And then I think Will Smith said it.
Oh, yes, I saw. And then you were like, makes sense.
And I was like, oh, my husband wasn't crazy after all. It now makes sense. Yeah. And that freed me a lot. That freed me a lot. And like what you're saying, that you had to look to God to say, Lord, there are areas of my life that I need you to come through for me. It's not my husband's responsibility.
Yeah.
It's, God needs to sort of step in and show you what needs to happen in that season of your life. And it has really been amazing.
Oh, that's good. But then are we saying then there are because there are certain expectations that are real and they're right.
Yeah.
So how then do you deal with those unmet expectations? Like if you really think this is what I need, but then it's still not being done, how do you communicate these unmet expectations and how should your partner receive them as well?
So you know what has also freed me, Naki? I think now my expectations are based on what God says a man should do for his wife and not what society says. Because we look so much on the outside where we have these crazy expectations. My husband's responsibility is to love me as Christ loved the church, right? That is the first mandate that has been given to a husband. And I feel like when you are loved right, and being loved right is not about what your man can buy for you or what your man can do for you necessarily, right? But it's about how he shows up for you, right? Yeah. And I think for me, when I started looking at what is my husband's duty to me through God's lens, it really...
It changed your perspective.
Yeah, it really changed my perspective because I think my expectations were also quite surfacey, very surfacey, where when someone doesn't meet an expectation in this area, then you're like, oh my gosh, our marriage is over. He surely doesn't love me, right? But I think I've also had to, in terms of unmet expectations, I had to unpack them and look at my husband's character to say, okay, his character, this is not his character. He has not met a certain expectation because we are people. And sometimes our thoughts are not aligned, and not because we are misfits or not because we are incompatible, but because we're different.
That's true.
Right? Sometimes my husband might think him going to buy, donuts in the morning before he drops the kids off is something that will make me happy. And I'm like, no, but now the kids are going to be late. You should have, and it's like, but I was doing this for you.
In love,
So, and I think that's where we miss each other sometimes, where you find that, your partner has you in mind when they do a certain thing, but because they're not doing it in the way you want them to do it, then you feel like it's an unmet expectation. So I've had to really just widen the way I think, because I can be a black and white person to say, okay, when I speak about unmet expectations, are these expectations really not met, or is it because he didn't do something the way I wanted to? And that has helped me grow, because I'm one person, like I was saying, I want things to be done a certain way, and that has sometimes been a bone of contention. My husband has said, but babe, it's not because I'm not doing it, it's because I'm not doing it the way you want me to do it. So I've had to really examine myself in that regard.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sure. Listen, baby, I'm coming a changed woman. Another thing that's so evident for you is how you've got an amazing relationship with your in-laws, at least
that's so sweet.
Your parents' in-laws, your sister-in-laws. How do you cultivate that relationship? Because there's a lot of people out there that struggle with that,
Yeah.
So how do you cultivate it for it to look as beautiful as it does?
Funny thing is, I don't even know if, maybe they might correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like God really favored me. You know, I just walked into an incredible family that was just open to embrace me and to welcome me. I mean, I could potentially be the worst makoti in terms of what a makoti is supposed to look like. I don't even cook for my in-laws.
Really?
No, like when they come over.
I mean...
like when they come over, there's woolies, you know. There's woolies. I remember the one time my mother-in-law was hosting, right? My mother-in-law was hosting Christmas, and I got someone to come help us do the cleaning. You know, because there's that
I think I listened
that
to that.
app. Yeah, there's that app where you can get someone to come. I went there with Sweeps Out. Yeah, Sweeps Out must just actually pay for this podcast because we are mentioning them. And I took someone there because I remember the first Christmas after I got married, I was trying to prove myself. Then doing the dishes, I got home so mad. And I was mad at my husband. I was like, I'm never doing that again because this is not what I signed up for. And, you know, I just feel like in terms of in-laws, your in-laws will love you for who you are. You know, they'll take you for who you are. My parents-in-law, I feel like they just love me because I love their son fiercely, you know, and that's just what makes them happy because I don't do the whole makoti, you know, and I remember when we got married, they said that we're welcoming a daughter. I'm legit a daughter in their home.
Yeah, you know? Not a daughter-in-law.
No, and my mom-in-law loves to spoil me. She loves to cook for us. She gifts me. And they're just amazing. And I just feel like me just loving them is also just enough. And maybe that's just how I cultivate the relationship. I just love them. Yeah. I don't do anything. I'm not a superwoman in that house, you know, but they're proud of me. They love me. I think it's just grace, really. Yeah, it's grace. Yeah. And also maybe if I can just, I feel like in the beginning, because maybe I'm also painting like a roses kind of story and everyone watches it's like, yo, my in-laws are horrible. Their in-laws rather.
I need to check.
But when we got married, I feel like my in-laws and we didn't understand each other. So we did have teething issues. I would say the first 1 or 2 years of our relationship, but my husband stepped in a lot.
Oh, nice.
So he did a lot of, you know, being the middleman. I mean, I don't know if there's anything that my in-laws have said negatively about me, and I would never know because my husband would never tell me.
Yeah, because you kind of do it.
No, he would never come back and say, yeah, you know, this is what my mom, and I know that it's the same on the other side. You know, even maybe when I used to complain about certain things, he would never take it back to them and be like, yeah, Pheto said 1, 2, and 3. So he really did a lot of work in making sure that we find each other because obviously I grew up in a certain way. They, you know, raised their kids in a certain way, and they're also individuals. Over and above being my husband's parents, they are individuals with personalities. So having to learn their personalities as well, and them having to learn me, it took time, you know. But they're open. They are also very graceful and gracious. They're not defensive. That's one thing I love about them. Like if you communicate something that maybe didn't, you know, sit well with you, they are very open to correction. I use correction for a lack of a better word, but they are the first to say, wow, that was a blind spot. I didn't see that. We'll do better next time. Yeah, but we have the most amazing relationship, really.
The fact that you even have the opportunity to go and say, I need help with this, or you didn't do this right by me, that's actually good, you know?
Yeah, but like, you know what, I think I give most of the credit to Lerato because he championed those uncomfortable moments in that season where we were trying to learn each other.
And that's important because when you do have a husband who, if you complain, then there's like, okay, nothing happened. They're my parents, I can't talk to them. They're my siblings, I can't talk to them. Then it doesn't help because now you're just harboring bitterness, anger. And on the other end, they continue with what they've been doing as well. So,
I think that is the most difficult thing when you have a partner who say, no, but that's my mom. And there's nothing you can do or say, right? But I remember something very important that Lerato said. I remember at the time, my sister-in-law and I were not seeing eye to eye. And very early on in our marriage, and he said to her, you're my sister, she's my wife, you guys have to sort it out. None of you is going anywhere. And he said the same thing to me. She's my sister, you're my wife, and you need to sort it out. You need to
sort yourselves out.
You need to sort it out. And then eventually we did.
That's good. That's really good. So would you say you're a strict parent? What's your parenting style?
Strict.
Because they've got such beautiful daughters, by the way. You need to watch their videos. They've got such amazing, gifted daughters.
I'm not strict. My husband is a stricter parent. I'm very... What's the word? I always say that being the disciplinarian tires me because I'm such a happy-go-lucky person. I'm very... I also can't be... What's the word? I don't know how to be strict, let me say.
Oh, right.
So my husband is strict, but I'm very decisive also when it comes to my kids. They know when they've crossed the line. They know that, oh, okay,
she's not happy.
Mama is not happy. But I'm not strict at all. My husband does a lot of the disciplining, and I respect that because, and I think maybe I also don't do it a lot because there hasn't been a demand put on me because he's there to do it. I feel like if maybe I was a single parent, I would have to take on that crown of being the disciplinarian. So yeah, but what's amazing about discipline is that kids love being disciplined, it makes them feel safe. So even though it's not something that, it's not my default setting to be the disciplinarian, when I need to, I do it. I mean, I remember my husband once went away for about 6 weeks or so, like a month plus, going to 2 months. And obviously I had to take on that role of being the disciplinarian. So not strict, but I like order. So my kids know. They know that they need to make their beds. Even Ruo, she's 4. She makes her bed.
Sure.
And they know that you can't leave crumbs on the table. No one is going to clean up after you. Pack up your toys. Do this and do that. So I do believe in there being order in the house. Yeah.
I love that. And how did you teach them, from the videos I've watched?
Yeah.
They're so good at like how to respond. You know how when you say, I love you, and it's like, I love you, mama. It's so warming. It's so good. Did you have to teach them how to respond to love, or did it just come as you show them love?
I think it just came. Our house is full of love. Our house is full of love. And I think when there's tension in the house, you can feel it because we're so used to being outwardly loving. Like my husband and I are very affectionate with each other. Even with the kids, like I'll look at them just on a random, I probably tell them I love them like 10 times.
In a day.
And I'll just look at them and Haku will say, yes, mama, I love you too. So she knows she knows what's coming. I'll just, she'll just be doing something random, doing her homework. And I'll just stare at her and just affirm her and tell her how much I love her. And I'll always say to them, guys, do you know how much I love you? Every single day. Do you know how much you mean to me? I'm blessed to have you in my life. I'm grateful that God, saw me fit to be your mom. So I think just that constant showering of love, it's the only language that they know. So it's like, how you learn how to speak? We wouldn't say that we actually sat our kids down and taught them how to speak. They heard us speaking, and then it's a language that they started speaking.
That's true.
So even with love, our love language at home is, showing it, and we're very affectionate. So it's the only language they know.
Sure, that is so good.
Yeah.
So how do you, would you say, so I don't know, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're comparing Leruo to Akoe? Did I say their names right?
Yes, Leruo and Hakwe. I think I have.
Yeah.
And maybe I wasn't aware that I was doing, because sometimes you think you do it innocently.
Yeah.
You'll say, oh, Hakwe doesn't like running. Ruo, she's always jumping around, and I think we do it as parents. You don't think you are doing it, but you just think that you are highlighting their differences because they are different. And I think I don't think there's anything wrong with highlighting their differences, as long as you are not comparing it as in, this one doesn't like running, so it's a bad thing. And this one likes doing this, therefore it's a good thing. It's just how they are. Hakwe is not sporty. She's more artsy. She loves drama. She loves expressing herself in that way. And Ruo is more sporty. And even Hakwe knows that. She's like, oh, you're going to be an Olympian. She's like, this one is always running. So I think there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that your kids are different, but just don't make it about it being a negative or positive thing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Did motherhood change how you, because you're very fashionable. You're always on point. I've not seen you off.
I'll take it. Thank you.
Did motherhood at any point change how you dress, how you feel about yourself, how you look?
I don't think so. Even when I was pregnant, there were moments where you just want to be at home and not show up because you're tired or you're feeling sluggish, whatever. But I'm that girl. I just and I think I take it from my mom. Even when I'm going to the shops, I'll put lip gloss on.
You must look good.
Because I'm just like, I'm not going to bump into my old boss and I'm looking all crusty. Or an ex-boyfriend and I'm looking down and out. Listen, you will not catch me. Even though, when I go to the shops, I don't wear makeup or whatever, but I always believe in looking presentable. So my mom has always taught me that. Even as a new mom, I always made sure that I looked presentable. Even if I wasn't putting on makeup or whatever, I made sure your hair must always be neat. Put some lip gloss on, put some mascara on if you have to. So it hasn't really changed me or changed how I view myself. My body has obviously changed.
Has it?
It has.
Where?
You must. When I got married, guys, but I don't want that body back. But I was always fasting for people. I was in that fasting. Listen, if you came to me and said, Pete, listen, I'm starting this new podcast, I'll be like, friend, let's fast about it. I was always fasting for people, so I was really small.
Yeah.
And motherhood has just given me curves in the right places.
Oh, you look good.
And I'm grateful because I think growing up, so people don't realize, because in Black families, there's a lot of bullying that happens, but they don't see it as bullying. They would say, if you don't have a bum, they'll call you like a washboard. In South Africa, we call it a vasplanka. They'll be like, we're no vasplanka because you don't have a bum or whatever.
Sure.
And sometimes you internalize those things, right? And you grow up thinking, oh, my body's probably less desirable because I don't have curves and whatever. And motherhood has just given me the confidence to be like, no, this body is banging. I might not have the most bootylicious booty, but really all sizes matter, So I embrace my body in every season. I think like any woman, I feel like I can do some improvements. I can go to the gym a little bit more, but it's not something that I obsess about. And I think it's also because I'm trying to teach my kids about body positivity. It's not something
that's
that, because when you have girls also, I know that these are some of the things that plague me as a teen, where you're constantly worried about, oh, how do I look? Am I small enough? Now am I big enough?
Yes,
Because
it keeps
body
changing.
type, right? Because imagine now, if you had to go by what society says,
How many times would you change yourself?
how many times are you going to change yourself?
Yeah.
So no, motherhood hasn't really impacted my dress sense or my body, how I view my body rather. Yeah.
No, you look gorgeous. Like, she doesn't even look like a mother.
Kind. No, you look amazing. I mean, you're like a top model, girl.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So do you ever get hateful comments on social media?
I think not a lot. I feel like
you do get them?
We do get some, but not a lot. Like, I mean, I was telling Lerato actually the other day, there was a comment. Was it on a reel? It wasn't on, I think it was a reel or on YouTube, and someone said, oh, this love is so fake. I can't wait for them to get divorced. Someone said that, and I was like, wow, this is so deep, right? And then I just deleted it and blocked that person's account. So we don't get a lot, like, I'd be lying if we said we have like trolls.
Yeah.
So I think we've just really been blessed, and these are some of the things that I pray about, just for God to cover us. I think I don't do well with hate mail.
Yeah.
So, and like sometimes you'll get someone on a video to say, oh, you guys like to paint this picture of perfection and this and this and so that. But mostly it's been love. Mostly it's been, we love what you're doing, keep doing what you're doing. But like, I think, when we started the show, I was like, I must make sure that I sit properly, because you do get people, if you don't have a flat stomach on that day, they're like, oh, do you guys have an announcement to make? Congrats. I'm just like, no, I'm just bloated. Leave me alone. I don't owe you a flat stomach, But generally, it's been really amazing. We don't get a lot of hate comments, and that's just been a blessing. Just one or two, guys. I won't even lie to say, I mean, there are people that get trolled. There are people where I'm just like, how do you guys do it?
Deal? I would deactivate.
But there's also some platforms that, like Twitter, we don't do Twitter.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's also us deliberately protecting our space, because there are other platforms that are more toxic than others. And Instagram has been friendly, YouTube has been friendly to us. So Twitter, we just stay away, because there,
it's
people, guys, Twitter, people, no boundaries there.
So, and whilst we're still on social media, social media is a good platform to show off your love, your emotions, and all that.
Yeah.
But I feel sometimes it's started to make people compare themselves to the love or the relationships that they see on social media. And I think, like you're saying now, that person who's commenting, okay, this love looks fake. So first of all, who can ever pick up the camera when they're having an argument, right? So we obviously will save the best moments to show off to people. But what would you tell someone who is looking at their marriage and comparing it regularly to what they're seeing on social media?
Take a break.
Because
for me, as much as I know that those are highlight reels, I don't live with that idea that says, oh yeah, they look happy now, but they might not be that happy. What if they are that happy? Right? What if some people's highlight reels are really their lives and they're just so happy? Yes, they might have challenges, but nothing big. Do you see what I mean? So for me, I feel like if social media is impacting you negatively, take a break. Take a break. I did that, by the way. So beginning of the year, when we normally do the Daniel fast, I went on a social media fast because it was starting to impact me negatively. I could feel, I was just complaining a lot. I was just never pleased with the work that we were putting out. I was never pleased with what we were doing. I just felt stagnant. I felt like, wow, people are flourishing. What am I doing with my life? And then I think it wasn't even a week into the fast, and my husband commented and said, babe, you are complaining less. I had so much gratitude for the lives that we had, and I just felt like this is enough. Yes, there are people that might have better lives, and what is better really? It's better for them, but this is better for me. So taking a break is imperative, and that will help you to reevaluate where you are mentally and emotionally, and give you a sense of appreciation for what God has done for you. So take a break. Take a break. Yeah.
That's true. And for you, for your marriage, do you find social media to be, because like you're saying, you don't, argue for a long period of time, like you resolve your conflicts very quickly.
Yeah.
So do you ever find yourselves, like social media helping you to actually get back from an argument because you have to work together anyway?
Always. Let me not say always, but I found that sometimes it also helps, because I remember when we started the channel, and the channel started growing, and then we were talking about it, and we said, babe, we can't mess this up. We can't mess this relationship up, because now we get people that are drawing inspiration, and it's not something that we signed up for, but because when we got married, I was very clear about marriage being a ministry.
That's good.
And when we started the YouTube channel, it unfolded so beautifully that this is that ministry that I was talking about, where your relationship can point people to the cross, where your relationship can be such a light, and when people say that, wow, because of your relationship, I now believe in marriage again. Because we also live in a society where people come from broken homes, and people haven't seen healthy relationships being modeled.
That's
right?
true.
And then you are offering them that opportunity to see love in a different light. And when it happened the way it happened, and our platform grew, and we started getting people encouraging us to say, please keep doing what you're doing, because it's giving us hope. And I find that accountability is so important, because now we have an audience that we are accountable to. Not that we're living for them, because that wouldn't be a realistic way to live your life. But we understand that we treat our marriage differently now, this ministry, because when ministry gets hard, you don't up and leave. If you're a pastor and you're pastoring a church, ministry will get hard, but you don't just decide and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm leaving. So even with us now, I feel like social media has given us a platform to sort of accept the accountability part of it. So it also with social media, it's what you make of it. Right, so you can use it in a positive light, or it can influence you negatively. So that's how we've chosen to use it in this season of our lives.
It's good. And how would you define purpose to you? What's purpose? What does purpose look like?
Ooh, purpose. So I've actually done a few, not talks, but I've done Instagram lives. I usually don't watch my clips back, but I would imagine that every time I've been asked this purpose question is different. And it's different because purpose is not a destination. It's an ongoing process. And I find that sometimes with a lot of us, we're waiting for that one big thing where we think, oh, now that I'm doing this YouTube channel, I've found my purpose. I don't think you ever find your purpose. I feel like you are constantly evolving towards what God wants you to do. And I find that some people find themselves stuck because they feel like they don't have the right education, or they don't know the right people, or they don't have the right platforms to live out their purpose.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? Which sometimes makes us to not be fulfilled in life. So for me, I find that we all have a greater purpose. We're all destined to, when I look at the life of Jesus, right? His life was so purposeful. You look at, he was a carpenter, he had a job as a carpenter, and then he had his ministry where he was, performing miracles, and he was just doing incredible things. And I find that sometimes, especially now that we are all hustling and trying to make it, people frown upon their jobs, their 9-to-5s, where they feel like, oh, this is not my purpose.
I'm not pushing.
Or not even I'm not pushing, but I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing with my life.
That's true.
Who says that? I was once in that trap of believing that I'm not supposed to be doing I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But sometimes you can, it's all part of your purpose. You can use those funds to fund another thing that God possibly wants you to do. You can work a 9-to-5 and still impact people's lives in that 9-to-5 and outside that 9-to-5. So for me, how I define, I feel like it was such a long about answer. I feel like purpose, you don't find your purpose, you live your purpose.
Wow.
And we are constantly trying to find that purpose, and it's depressing a lot of us. It is making us unmotivated because we feel like, people are living their best. This thing when people say they're living their best lives. I just sincerely believe that we were created, because purpose essentially in its simplest form is what were we created for, right? In its simplest form, without the philosophy and all these fancy words. I believe that we were created by God, for God, to make a difference in the world, to leave the world better than we found it. And that can be in your everyday life. Everyday life. How are you making a difference in people's lives?
That's so good. And I love what you're saying, because I think I've been there as well, where you're thinking, okay, it's my 9-to-5. Maybe, I think it's the hustle mentality. Where you're saying to yourself, it's a 9-to-5. I think I need to do more. There's something more I need to do in order to leave my purpose. Because I think most times when you hear people saying they're leaving their purpose, they left their 9-to-5 to hustle. So you're like, okay, I think maybe that's where the purpose actually is. But there are also times where I think God shows you your purpose before He shows you the process.
Oh,
right?
I love that.
So sometimes you find you've got delays and you almost feel as though your purpose has been denied of you. So how do you deal with those moments where you actually are living your purpose, but you're just having, what can I call them, like blockages as you attain your purpose? How would you deal with those?
I love what you're saying, because I feel like 99% of the time, if God showed you the process, you wouldn't do it.
That's true.
Like even in marriage, if God showed you what you would have to go through to get to that, I always call it a sweet spot in marriage, where things are just
honeymoon
amazing. And it happens again, because you start on honeymoon and then there's trials, and then you there's that honeymoon again. And so even with that, I think when we spoke in the beginning of this podcast, I mentioned that I've learned to trust the process, and I've learned to rely so much on God that I know that this is just part of the process. I won't lie and say I don't get disappointed. I do get disappointed in God sometimes. I do sometimes feel like, but God, why do I have to go through this? Why don't you just make it easy for me? I'm so faithful. You know how much I love you. I tithe. And God is like, yeah, so you should.
Performance development form.
And God is like, yeah, so you should. Why should I praise you for swimming if you're a fish, right? But I find that I've just learned to trust that, okay, God, I might be disappointed in this moment, but I know that it's for a greater purpose. There's this thing that I like to, I heard it the one time, I don't know if it was a sermon or a speech, but they were talking about rejected for a purpose.
Sure.
So you need to understand. I mean, you look at, people that have been rejected in the Bible. You look at David, right? The way he was found. I mean, his dad was anointing all the other brothers, and he was rejected for a purpose. At that time, God knew that there's one that I've chosen. People are gonna reject you. People are not gonna trust that you can do the job, but I have chosen you. So I constantly have to remind myself that I have been chosen. I have been chosen. I am worthy of God's glory. I am favored, So every time when I start to feel slightly disheartened about certain things or things that are not happening in my life, I'm just like, Lord, you know what? Even the disappointments are part of the purpose. So if we can find purpose in those disappointments, because you find that sometimes people's most heartbreaking stories are what is going to change other people's lives. You find that someone went through this, and then in future, their ministry is birthed from that.
Yes.
So even if we can understand that even when things are not happening as we think they should, that is still part of living your purpose. So your purpose is not just in the highlights. No, even the pain that you are going through, even the challenges that you are facing, they're all designed to help you, not even lead you, but to live.
Oh, because you're already living it.
Because you're already living it. You see, so most of us are waiting to find the purpose. And personally, I don't think you find it. I feel like you live it.
That's a good one.
And there's something that I heard the other day. I think my husband likes to say, gosh, can I not be that girl? And like, my husband loves my husband. And you are just like, wow, girl, we know you love your husband. But when when you're friends, you bounce things off of each other. And I think he said, everything that happens to you happens for you.
Sure.
And I thought that was so profound.
It is.
Yeah. I should have just used it as my own. I should stop quoting him. I'm stopping. I'm not quoting anymore. I'm just going to use this profound. Yeah. So everything that happens to you happens for you. Yeah.
I love that. Last one. This is my bonus question.
This is a lot. I feel like we can talk forever.
I know. So this is like my bonus question. This is from me.
Okay.
You're both on the limelight. You're both doing well on social media. Well, yes, you are on social media. You're a gorgeous couple.
Oh, thank you.
How do you stay faithful to each other? And how do you also stay secure? Because you can easily feel, oh, my wife is so gorgeous. Any guy can just slide in the DMs. My husband is lovely. Any girl can just slide in the DMs. So how do you stay secure, like feeling safe and secure? And how do you also stay faithful?
Sure. I think I'll start with the secure part. I feel like I remember someone saying that, if you don't trust your partner, then just don't marry them or whatever. But you realize that as people, you can only trust God 100%, right? Because as people, I always say that as people we're flawed, and if you trust God implicitly, then that's how you stay secure. So I trust my husband because I trust God.
That's good.
I don't know if it makes sense.
It does.
And I find that when we got married, you come into relationships with a lot of baggage. And I understand why God wants us to wait for certain things, because when you date also and you've been disappointed in the past, and some people have done you dirty in the past, you bring that baggage into your marriage.
That's true.
And not that you don't trust your partner, but you've been that PTSD, right? And you come into the marriage with that. So I find that, I think early on in our marriage, I was very insecure about everything, but it's because of trauma. You know, your husband doesn't answer his phone, and you're like, "Where are you? Why? Dude, like, dude, my phone, my battery died, or I was just lost in conversation, or I didn't hear." There's so many reasons why someone wouldn't answer your call, right? So for me, and a lot of people ask this question, that are you not scared of marriage? Why would you get married if a lot of marriages end in divorce? And I always say, trust God. Trust God. That's and trust that God will help both of you to make the right decisions in your marriage. So if you put all your trust in God, then I think it's safe, it's easier to feel secure.
That's true.
In your marriage. And what was the other question?
How do you remain faithful?
How do you remain? I think for me, it's easy. I wish my husband was also here to answer some of these questions. So for me, I feel like it's easy because I've also set boundaries early on in our marriage. So I don't have a lot of guy friends. I don't even think I've got any guy friends. And not because I don't trust myself, but because I know that a lot happens in marriage. So imagine... I remember when my husband and I went through a very difficult time in our marriage. We speak about it openly. You know, our biggest thing was finances. Imagine you have this friend, and now your poor Moses husband is just broke. And now you've opened yourself up to this relationship with other... With people from the opposite sex, and you find solace in that, and they comfort you, and maybe they're doing things that your husband can't do for you, and maybe they might be doing it because they are just a friend. But can you see how dangerous that could be? Where at home certain things are lacking, and there are people that can fulfill those things, you know. And I do understand that there are people that can really just have platonic relationships with their male friends or female friends. But for me, it's a decision that I made early on in our marriage to say, you know what? I do not ever want to find myself in a situation where I've crossed the line, and not because I woke up saying, today I'm crossing the line, but because marriage is long. As much as life is short, life can be long.
That's true.
And a lot of things happen in marriage, and you could potentially start seeing other people in a different light because of deficiencies that are at home. So for me, I think I don't know if that's what helped me stay faithful, but there isn't a lot of temptation.
You don't allow temptation.
No, I've set that boundaries. I don't care for temptation. If I feel like something is going to be a distraction, I remove it. I don't play like that. I don't play like that.
That is so good.
I don't play with fire. I'm just, because I feel like if I had to be unfaithful, that's one of the things that I would struggle to forgive myself for.
True.
I feel like I would really struggle.
Guilt.
With, you know? So, yeah.
And on that note...
Is it already done?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. This was such an amazing conversation.
It was amazing. Thank you so much, Phetola,
You're doing amazing work. And I pray that God may just enlarge your territory. You are really trailblazing. Guys, this girl's amazing. I mean, she's out here. She's a career woman. She's a CA. She's a model. She's a wife. She's a woman of God. You are doing incredible things. And I'm so proud to be on this platform. I'm honored that you chose me to be here. Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're amazing. I don't know how many times I'll tell you this in my lifetime, but you're amazing. Thank you.
I love you, sis. I love you. Amen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. She's going to make me cry.
Oh, man.
By the way, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, and follow them as well. I'll put their links if you don't already know them.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Love you.